Hello and welcome to another Divi Booster tutorial. In this video, we'll look at how to remove gaps in Divi Builder layouts to create a more seamless and professional-looking website. Managing space effectively is critical for good web design, and excessive white space, such as large gaps between sections, rows, or modules, can disrupt your layout and result in a fragmented, less engaging experience for users. Today, I'll guide you through understanding these gaps and show you practical, beginner-friendly ways to minimize them. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have the tools you need to enhance your layout's cohesion and improve its overall appearance. Let's dive in. Let's take a closer look at what causes gaps in Divi layouts. Gaps in your website layout can come from various settings within the Divi Builder, and understanding these sources is key to managing them effectively. In this video, we'll go over some of the most common culprits, including margins, padding, heights, and position settings. These elements are often responsible for the unwanted spaces that interrupt your layout. By learning how to identify and control these settings, you can create a seamless and visually pleasing design. So let's continue and explore each of these potential causes in more detail. Margins play an important role in your layout's appearance. Think of them as an element's personal space. They determine the distance between one element and another on your website. Margins can be applied to all sides of an element, and they significantly influence the spacing in your design. When margins are too large, or worse, when negative margins are used unnecessarily, it can push elements apart and create unwanted gaps that disrupt your layout. In Divi, you can control margins for each module. To adjust them, go to the module's settings, then navigate to Design, followed by Spacing, and finally, Margin. From there, you can fine-tune the spacing around your elements to create a more cohesive and balanced design. Keep in mind that carefully managed margins can help remove those disruptive gaps and give your layout a polished, professional look. Padding is another essential factor to consider when managing gaps in your Divi layouts. Unlike margins, which create space outside an element, padding adds space inside an element's borders. This effectively pushes the content away from the edges and further from neighboring elements. Now, while padding is a valuable tool for creating breathing room within elements, it can also inadvertently create unwanted gaps in your layout if not carefully managed. The key is to use it thoughtfully to maintain balance and cohesion across your design. To control padding for any specific element in Divi, navigate to the module's settings. From there, go to the Design tab, select Spacing, and then adjust the padding values as needed. Here, you can easily tweak these settings to reduce or expand the internal space of elements, helping to fine-tune the alignment and flow of your layout. Carefully managing padding can help you achieve a clean and visually pleasing design while avoiding unnecessary gaps that disrupt your website's structure. Heights and minimum heights are another important consideration when dealing with gaps in your Divi layouts. By setting specific height or min height values, you're essentially forcing elements to maintain a fixed dimension. While this can be useful in certain scenarios, it can also unintentionally create gaps by pushing the content that follows further down the page. This is especially problematic for mobile layouts, where content resizing often demands different height parameters. Misusing height settings can lead to awkward spacing and disrupt the overall flow of your design, particularly on smaller screens. To adjust these settings in Divi, go to the module's settings, then navigate to the Design tab and select Sizing. Here, you can specify the height or min height values for your elements. By carefully managing these settings and using them only when necessary, you can avoid creating unwanted gaps and ensure your layout adapts well across different devices. Remember, when it comes to spacing, relying on margins and padding for adjustments usually results in a cleaner and more flexible design. Position settings are another aspect to consider when working on your Divi layouts, but they should be used with caution. These settings allow you to directly adjust where elements are placed by shifting them from their original positions. While this might seem like an easy fix for alignment issues, it can often cause unintended gaps in your layout. This is because these adjustments are typically made with absolute values, which don't adapt well to different screen sizes. As a result, your design may lose responsiveness especially on mobile devices. If you need to access these settings in Divi, you can do so by going to the module's settings, selecting the Advanced tab, and then navigating to Position. This is where you can make these adjustments if needed. However, I recommend keeping these changes to a minimum. Position settings can introduce complexity to your layout and make it harder to maintain a clean, responsive design. Instead, try using margins and padding to handle spacing issues, as they're more flexible and mobile-friendly. Aside from margins, padding, heights, and position settings, there are other potential sources of gaps in your Divi layouts. These can include section and row heights set in the Customizer layout settings, as well as mobile-specific styles. Additionally, the row gutter width, which determines the spacing between columns within rows, can also contribute to unexpected gaps. While we're focusing primarily on the most common causes of layout gaps in this tutorial, it's always a good idea to be aware of these additional factors. Understanding the many ways gaps can occur will help you troubleshoot and fine-tune your layout for the best results. Minimizing gaps in your Divi Builder layouts requires a mix of thoughtful design decisions and practical adjustments. It's all about finding a balance that ensures your layout is both visually appealing and functional. In this video, I'll guide you through some effective approaches to remove unnecessary gaps from your design. These methods are simple to apply and will help you streamline your layout for a cleaner, more cohesive look. Let's dive into the techniques that make creating a seamless design easier. When eliminating gaps in your Divi layouts, it's important to avoid using position settings as your solution. Adjusting elements with absolute positioning might seem like a quick fix, but it often introduces more challenges than it resolves. Absolute positioning can create a cascading effect, where adjusting one element forces you to tweak multiple others to maintain alignment. This approach can quickly make your design overly complex and, more importantly, non-responsive across different screen sizes. Instead, focus on other methods like properly managing margins and padding for a cleaner and more adaptable layout. By steering clear of absolute positioning for gap issues, you simplify your design process and maintain better responsiveness. Negative margins are something you should generally avoid using in your Divi Builder layouts, unless there's a very specific reason to include them. While they might seem like a convenient solution for certain adjustments, negative margins can often behave unpredictably. Not only that, but they tend to complicate responsive design. This means your layout might not adapt well across different screen sizes, creating more problems in the long run. The best practice is to rely on positive margins or padding to manage spacing, as they provide a more predictable and adaptable way to design your layout. Height settings in Divi Builder are a useful tool, but should be used sparingly. These settings are best reserved for ensuring consistent element sizing, rather than being used to adjust spacing between elements. For instance, if your design requires consistent spacing, it's much better to rely on margins or padding to achieve that. These options are more flexible and adaptable, especially when creating layouts that need to work across different devices. By using height settings only when absolutely necessary, you'll keep your layout simpler and more responsive while avoiding unnecessary complications in your design. Using positive margins and padding is a simple and effective way to create a clean, manageable layout in Divi Builder. This approach significantly reduces the complexity of your design, making it easier to identify and adjust any gaps that might appear. Margins and padding provide a flexible and responsive method for controlling spacing, allowing you to fine-tune your layout without introducing unnecessary complications. By relying on these tools, you can ensure your design remains cohesive, adaptable, and polished across different devices and screen sizes. Once you've simplified your layout, the next step is to identify the exact causes of any remaining gaps. To do this, you can use your browser's element inspection tools. These tools are incredibly helpful for pinpointing the source of unwanted spacing in your design. By inspecting the elements, you'll be able to see what's contributing to the gaps, whether it's padding, margin, or something else. This insight allows you to make precise adjustments, ensuring your layout is clean, cohesive, and professional looking. Let's take a closer look at how to use this inspection process effectively. To identify the cause of a gap in your Divi layout, The first step is to use your browser's inspection tool. Simply right-click on the area where the gap appears, then select Inspect from the menu that pops up. This will open your browser's developer tools and allow you to directly analyze the elements on your page. By doing this, you can pinpoint which settings, such as margins or padding, might be causing the gap. Using this tool is a quick and effective way to understand the issue and make precise adjustments to fix it. When you use your browser's developer tools to inspect a gap, you'll notice that it highlights the elements contributing to the spacing. The tool uses different colors to identify the properties. Content is shown in blue, padding appears in green, and margins are highlighted in orange. This visual aid makes it much easier to pinpoint the source of the gap. With this insight, you can go back to your Divi layout and accurately adjust the settings, whether it's reducing padding, tweaking margins, or both, to minimize or eliminate the unwanted spacing. By breaking it down like this, you can make precise, effective changes to refine your design. Handling different device widths is an important consideration when refining your Divi layouts. By following the practices we've outlined, like using positive margins and padding while minimizing height and negative margins, your pages will naturally work better across mobile and other device widths. Of course, some fine-tuning might still be necessary, but ideally, this will only involve small adjustments to margins and padding. To make this process even easier, Divi offers a built-in responsive values feature. This allows you to set different spacing and positioning values specifically optimized for desktops, tablets, and mobile devices. This tool is especially useful for ensuring your design looks seamless across all screen sizes. You can find more details about setting responsive values in Divi in the accompanying post. By taking advantage of these features, you'll achieve a layout that is polished and fully adaptable, no matter where it's viewed. To wrap up, by focusing on positive margins and padding and keeping height and position adjustments to a minimum, you can create a design that is not only visually appealing, but also highly responsive. This straightforward approach simplifies the troubleshooting process and helps you craft a cleaner and more cohesive layout. Remember, when it comes to design, less is often more. Simplifying your approach can lead to better results and a more polished outcome. Thanks for watching, and happy designing.